Welcome back, people of the world. We are back with another episode. I am your co-host, Kyle Spain with Mental Warfare, and yet again, I am blessed to be with my brother from another, Sean Hanlon with the Release Valve, and we have a special guest with us. Sean, who do we have on here on our show today, baby?
Yes, sir. You know, we're often talking about where we came from, that specific area of California that we grew up in, and what it did to us, kind of, and what we were able to take away from it. And tonight we are lucky, blessed to be joined with somebody else from that same area that was able to get out of there and make something of themselves. He is a leadership coach, and he is helping build future leaders of the world. We are joined by an old-time friend, Mr. Isaiah Warren. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Very grateful to be a part of this and to talk about some things and reconnect with you guys. This is awesome. I'm very glad to be a part of this experience.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, again, I've been lucky enough to have a few people from the Bay Area that we grew up in to come on here and talk about some of the experiences that we had in that upbringing when we were out there, those formidable years. And again, you know, it seems like just about every single one of us has gotten out of there, and like I said, has gone on to do something with themselves. So again, we are super excited and lucky to have you to come on. To give us some more insight of some things that are going on out there that people are going through, and some things that people have been able to do with themselves. So, I mean, man, talking about, you know, high school, it has been over 20 years now since we've been removed from there.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? So I mean, we the three of us went to Newark Memorial High School. Where did your journey start from there after you left Newark? Where did the road take you?
Well, you know, after high school, I ended up leaving Memorial my junior year, and my mom had came and picked me up one random day and was like, "Oh, you're going down to the valley out there to Newman, to a place I had never been to," and at my life kind of like took a not say downhill, but took a spiral turn for me, and which I would say is still helped me into this day. And so, you know, I also want to say, you know, I'm really grateful that both of you guys are doing these type of talks to help more men and more people become more self-aware, because we need more people like us to share this journey, and to be able to just put it out there. Like, hey, we can put our feelings out there. We can talk about things we've been through. And the fact that you guys are doing this is
Absolutely.
awesome. Hey, Kyle, I remember when you started when you started Mental Warfare, Kyle, I was watching and I was like, man, this is awesome. I was watching your videos on Facebook. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what we need to spread. This is the type of information that needs to go out there. And then I seen Sean on Instagram. I'm like, this is awesome. Then you guys came together. I'm like, yes, we need more of this.
Right. Yeah, bro, exactly, man. And that was the driving force behind both of us to get this thing started. Was more people need to have these type of conversations. More people need to be able to open up. And like Kyle's always saying, be vulnerable. You know, allow yourself to be put in those positions to where you can heal, because that's where the true growth comes from. You know, like shout out to Barry. We reference him so much, Barry Taimani. You got to reveal to heal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, the society today has got this magnetic hold over the world, and has made it seem as if men are supposed to be a certain way, right? The head honchos, the macho man, and, you know, tough guys with the chest up and stuff like that, the providers and strength, and shed no tears, show no emotion, right? And in fact, that is quite the opposite. And you can tell now nowadays with, you know, the suicide rates, and I apologize if that's a trigger word for you, some of you out there, but the reality of it is that rate is starting to go up because we don't have a platform as men and women too. But women need to. This is a good for women to have some insight on their men as significant others and wives, right? To help better support their husbands in the trials and tribulations that they go through. But the fact of the matter is that we are all human and we all have emotions, and we are built to naturally built to have to release in order to feel better. That, like Sean said, that reveal to heal, right? So
Absolutely.
talk about go ahead and pick back up on where you left off and how you got into to helping people become better selves and become leaders.
So, leaving high school, I had the dream. I'm sure you had the dream too, playing sports, going pro, playing football. And I wanted to be an NFL player. So I went to college. I went to Texas Southern University. And going to
Nice.
Texas, moving out to Texas, kind of like woke my whole life up. I was like, whoa, there's some real athletes out here. People are really doing it.
Right.
And I played 2 years of college football, and my dream got shattered. And that was, for me,
Oh
that was
no.
a huge turning point in life, because just from playing football from 8 years old, playing high school, moving to a new high school, having to prove myself there, but still keeping a dream, and for all that just to disappear was heavy. And
Yeah,
just for it to come down
absolutely.
and be like, I'm not that good as other people. I'm not going to the pros. That's not going to happen.
Right.
And that was really, really hard. So I was, going through the college life experience, partying and, just trying to finish school, but also trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And growing up in the Bay Area, like you guys know, there's that Bay Area mentality that I carried into Texas that did not work, that did not
Right.
uphold at all. I
Right.
had to dismantle
Right.
that.
We talked
I'm
about
like,
that.
I'm in Texas now, and that idea and that belief of, it's just the man and I'm just so hard and all that had to go, completely go. But
Yeah.
I didn't have
Yeah.
I lacked a lot of self-awareness, and that got me in a lot of trouble. It led me down a wrong
Yep.
path. Just in my choice of women, my choices and decisions. I made a lot of bad decisions because I lacked self-awareness. I had zero
Right.
emotional intelligence, nor did I even know what those two things were. I didn't know what self-awareness was.
Of
I didn't know what
course.
emotional intelligence was. Zero idea. And I got tired of just bumping my head, man. I just got tired of it. I was like, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah.
Either I'm going to end up just a bum out here, dead or in jail. What am I going to do? Or I'm going to do a turnaround. So I started really trying to just go inward. And that's what led me on what leadership really was. Leadership to me is
Man,
becoming a leader of myself. I started questioning, why did I actually really want to play
absolutely.
football? Why did I want to play football? My dad played football. Did I actually really want to play football? Or was I chasing money? What was it? And just me questioning everything just opened up a whole new list of things. And I was like, well, what do I really want to do? What do Isaiah really want to do? What do I want to do with my life? I mean, I'm not chasing money. That's not really me. That's what the world is telling me to do. How do I really feel?
Right.
Stop letting my emotions, anger and fear and guilt and all this shame run my life. And as I started questioning all those things, it started just opening up things. Why am I really angry? What am I really angry at? Why am I really hurt? And
Right.
once I started answering those questions to myself and I started really diving in deep, I was a rabbit hole that I'm still on that
Of
same journey,
course.
because it affects my
Right.
everyday life, right? It affects our everyday life. All
Man.
those past traumas and all those things affects our everyday. It translates into our kids. So,
Man,
but
it's so funny. It's so funny that Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the more that I continue to down that journey of discovering myself, is the more I start learning that just me leading myself is what leadership is about. And so when I'm teaching others about what leadership is, I'm teaching them, what do you want? What do you want to do? Who are you? I ask that question all the time. Who am I? And that
Man,
is leadership.
That's
man,
huge.
I love how you said you have to lead yourself, because you have to lead yourself first in order for you to lead others, right? And I wrote down the kids, and because the kids thing is huge, and I was gonna do a little tap in about this, and I was gonna say, like, the enemy is after our kids, and what I mean by that is, when you're a kid, remember all the times, like, you used your imagination, and like, you were like, okay, pretend this, pretend that. Like, our imagination and creativity was so grand, and whatever the case is, whatever situation when you were, whatever family that you were in, the cycle continues though, right? So going to school, right? We go to school, and then that kind of gets stripped from us, right? And then we got teachers telling us what we can't do. We got our peers telling us being bullies and making fun of us, and just trampling on our self-esteem, and then that leads into adulthood, right? And so society's been set up for our kids to fail in the first place because of the systems that we've been put in, right?
Yeah.
And so it's exactly like you said, there is after our kids, and we have to break that cycle now, so our kids understand what life is really supposed to be like living. And amen to you, brother, because what you just said is something that I just had a breakthrough. You can ask Sean. I literally just had the ultimate breakthrough, as far as, why am I so upset? Why am I just irritable? Why am I not as happy as I can be about life? Of course, not all of us are in a position to where we have X amount of dollars, right? But I learned that being a millionaire starts within, right? I love the concept of spiritual millionaire, because you have to love life as it is for it to come out in reality and project in reality for you to receive that type of energy. So congratulations, bro. And man, when did you discover this? When did you have this breakthrough? Because it's better to have the breakthrough early rather than later, so you can figure out, like, who you want to be and what you want to do, right?
Yep. And so I want to piggyback off of something you said too. Like, it starts with those questions, asking ourselves that question, like, why am I so angry? Why am I so irritable? That's that starting point. Just asking
Yeah.
the question instead of just sitting back and accepting what
Self-awareness.
it is. Yep. Self awareness. And in order
Well,
for us to
that's
get
it,
there,
man. Having that question for yourself,
yeah.
because I did the same thing, and sorry to cut you off, because I used to do the same exact thing. I looked outwardly at everything, anything that was going on. I had to blame it on something else or somebody
Yep.
else. There's a reason why I'm in this position, or if something bad happened, somebody else did something that caused it. And I was always justifying all of those, the same thing, like you said, those bad life decisions that I was making. It was because of this, it was because of that. Or if I screwed up, it's only because, something else caused me to screw up, type of thing. And
Yep.
it's so hard, for whatever reason, it's so hard to really, and we talk about this all the time, right, Kyle? Looking in the mirror and being
Yeah,
honest with what you're seeing in there.
Yep.
And ask
absolutely.
yourself, why am I seeing what I'm seeing? You know what I mean? Why am I in this position? It's not because of anybody else. I'm the one who was involved in, and we've said everything that you said, man, was so on point, because we talk about this type of stuff all of the time, and I think that's what a lot of people's issue is that they're looking externally for all of the answers that are internal, right? So sorry
Absolutely.
to
Yes.
sorry to
And
cut you off. So
and I just want to
go ahead.
piggyback off of that as well. Like, that external outlook. And for me, I used external vices to try to numb those external things. I picked up a lot of alcohol. I was smoking a lot of weed. And I was just like continuously trying to numb that pain. And that's what I was starting to understand that too. I'm like, man, I'm getting sick. I'm getting fat. I'm out of shape. Like, and all I'm keep doing is either I'm drinking every day or I'm smoking weed. It's costing me too much money, but it was all exterior. Whether I was blaming somebody else, like you said, I'm pointing the finger at this person that did this, or they said this, and they made me mad. Oh man, that used to be they made me do that. They did this. They did this.
Right.
Yeah.
I learned to adopt that word accountability so heavy with me. Like, I tell my kids this all the time: be accountable. Be all the way accountable for everything that is going on. And when I'm accountable, it puts me in the driver's seat at all times. Even if I make a mistake, even when I fall short, if I'm accountable, I'm able to make the changes. If I put the ball in my court, I'm able to change the play. I can make the new decisions. I can change the outcome, as long as I remain accountable. But if I put it in somebody else's hands and like they did this and they did that, oh man,
that's it.
I'm at their fate.
Exactly.
Man,
there's no power. You're taking no control. And how do you expect? And again, Kyle, like we've said, it's like being in the driver's seat and having the car on autopilot and getting mad that it's not turning the way that you want it to turn, going the speed that you want it to go at. Like, take control of the wheel. You're right there. You're in the driver's seat. Why are you not driving? And again, it's accountability, man. That's probably one of the biggest words of the podcast, right? Is accountability.
The biggest word. The biggest 100%. Word. When people who are watching and listening to this, please, when you look in the mirror, you go ahead and staple that word to your forehead and ask yourself if you're holding yourself accountable. Because without accountability, there's no growth. You will be stuck where you are forever without accountability.
And it brings me back to that quote, nobody's at fault, but everyone's responsible. Obviously, nobody chooses their position in life when you're first born, right? And your upbringing, you have no choice in that, so it's not your fault in how you get started. But at a certain point in life, you have to take accountability for yourself. You have to take responsibility for your actions, your feelings, your thought processes. Again, like we say, who are you surrounding? Everything. The content that you're taking in, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, the conversations that you're having. Again, especially when you have those friends that you grew up with, like we talked about, in the Bay Area, that place is such an ego machine, right? It caused, for whatever reason, especially, and maybe it was just the time period that we were there. I don't know if it's still the same. I haven't been back in that area in a long time, but it just built these giant egos, and we all had to prove ourselves, and we all had something to prove, without really doing anything with ourselves, without really having anything to prove, right? Nobody was doing anything with themselves, but they swear that they were the biggest and best thing at whatever it is that they had going on. And if you had anything to say against it, we were probably fighting, right? It was violence everywhere.
That was really like just growing up, being a kid. That's what made it so much. Like, I didn't even get a chance to enjoy being a kid in the Bay Area because I had so much. I felt like I had so much to prove, just trying to just being in survival. But although I missed
that cycle we talk about.
I miss myself being a kid and just having fun but I walking around. If this person looked at me the wrong way, I had something to prove. And it was that influence around me being a follower, and that's my slogan is be a leader, not a follower. That's the mantra in my house. That's my mantra: be a leader, not a follower. And that just means being a leader of yourself and not following others. But I watched how following others, where that actually led me. It led me down the wrong path. Career choices, women, certain friends I picked, bad habits I picked up, bad behaviors. It was just horrible because I was just following it and whatever the crowd was doing. But I wasn't even aware that I was following. If you would have asked me back then, I'm like, nah, man, I'm running the show.
I'm doing me. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
No doubt.
I even thought the way I was dressing. I thought I was picking the way I was dressing, but I was following.
I was just going to say.
I was dressing.
Yep. We were all dressed the same, act the same. We were all getting hyphy, getting, hyped up and everything, and swearing that we were individuals.
Man.
Tall tees and jabots.
Man, it's
Wild, man.
such a
It was wild.
double-edged sword. It's such a double-edged sword because peers are extremely important in your life, but at the same time as parents, and this is where we come in, right? Isaiah and
That's what I
Sean
was gonna say.
is making that change, right? Having that understanding because our kids are they're just even my son today, dang, was it today or the other day? I can't remember the day, but we go into the school. It's the programming, right? It starts early, elementary school. My son's in fourth grade, my daughter's in first grade, and they're already worried about what people are saying and what people are thinking and how they feel about what people are saying to them. And it's hard to see, but it starts now. And our generations, going back generations, our parents and our parents before that were stuck in this same cycle, lack of self-awareness. So we weren't able to be taught what we know now. And so it's important for us to teach our kids that, to break that cycle, because it's all programming, which is why it's so hard now to break that deprogramming and reinstalling that new information that we need, because we've been living that life for so long. I mean, think about it, like 18 years, right? Or you start school, call it 13 years. You start school at 5 years old,
Yeah.
right? You
Right.
leave school at 18. That programming is 13 years. You're wired, right? It's not easy to break that, right?
Those are
So
crucial 13 years. Like those are your
Yeah.
formidable
development
years, right?
years.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
exactly.
And then at that point you're hardwired, right? And so
It's yeah, nature.
exactly. So having that self-awareness and being able to teach your kids that now is huge, man. Like absolutely huge. And it's not easy, because that's why I said I feel like the enemy is after our kids, because our kids, they go to school right now and they're just like, I want my friends to like me. Right. But it's like,
Yeah.
no, like you don't need them to
Right.
like you. Right.
Right.
But they don't understand that. So it's a difficult
Well, it's
process.
like, remember back when you were a kid, and how would you have responded if your parents said the same
Exactly.
thing about the friends that you were
Yeah.
having? Now,
Right.
obviously it's one of those things,
Stubborn.
again, we probably weren't as honest with our parents as they thought we were, and had they known a lot of the things that we were doing with said friends, they probably wouldn't have let us go out and do the things that we were doing. But again, that's the important thing of our job as parents, and the good thing about this day and age that we're doing it is we have the technology, we have the means to be able to really get a lot of the information that our parents didn't have, right? It was
Yeah.
all you
Absolutely.
go by what the news tells you, and that's it. You know what I mean? So as far as uh, our advantages that we have now, again, even just being able to have these type of conversations about parenting is makes it that much better and that much easier. We don't have to, you think back of, the 90s when we were kids, our parents didn't have this type of support groups that they could reach out to and get the type of feedback that we're able to do. So, again, I as many negative things as I can say about technology and social media especially, but it also it makes it that much better for us and easier for us to be able to address these type of things, have these type of
Absolutely.
discussions, and be that much better of parents for our children, and be able to give them a lot of the information that was missing when we were growing up. So, sorry, I went on a little tangent there, but to bring it back, when did you have something that caused this major breakthrough? I know you said that you stopped playing football. Was there like an injury or something that happened, or were you cut, or
Well,
what? How did football stop for you?
well, I had to come to the realization that I wasn't going to the pros, and I had to figure out, especially being in college in Texas, like how am I going to eat? How am I going to live? What am I going to do now?
What next?
So yeah, what next? But even in that particular situation, I still didn't have a breakthrough because I still had a victim mindset. My mindset didn't change. I had went through a traumatic situation in my life, but my mindset was still the same. So I still was looking for easy roads out, easy money, and partying, and I was still trying to self-medicate with alcohol and weed regularly. But for me, like Kyle had mentioned something like, better earlier than later, right? So I wanted to mention that because I had a really hard time with that. Like, what is actually later? I'm 38 right now, and I started making a real change in my life. It was only like 5 years ago. When I actually made a complete change, like, and turned the corner, and and go ahead, and that's when I started, like, really, like, I had the idea. I had the ideas. I was like kind of like teeter-tottering. I was playing the fence. But like when I made like a complete turnaround and never looked back, it was only 5 years ago. And I used to beat myself up about that.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm old. Man,
Same.
I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I got kids. Is this too late? But as I've been on this journey, I want to tell anybody out there, it's never too late. It's never too late to turn around and start making a good decision. Some people do it earlier. Some people do it later. But what matters most is that you get it and you make the turnaround. And I know a lot of, that's why I even empathize for a lot of men even now. Like, there's some people out there that still may be struggling. And I'm like, hey, look, you still got a chance. As long as you breathing and getting up every day, you can turn it around. Like you said, we live in a day and age with technology. We have a lot more tools and information available to us to where a change can happen in an instant. You can turn everything around in an instant. There's so much information available to us. This conversation that we're having right now can change somebody's life. Just by them seeing us three men on here having this conversation can change somebody's life. And the more and more 100%. We keep spreading this information, having this spreading this awareness, and having these kind of conversations, more work that you guys are doing with this is beautiful. This can change somebody's life. And it doesn't matter if it happens when they're 60, 70, 80. The only thing that matters is you make the change. And that you just don't lay down and give up and accept the way life is.
I mean, as long amen to that, man, because as long as you got breath in your lungs, there's an opportunity to live life in a positive way. There's an opportunity to live life happiness, because in doing so, you see the world very differently than you had before. And Sean says it a lot. And he said, life is life, but it's about how you approach it and perceive it is the difference in how you live your life, right? And without that self-awareness and to the people out there, man, like, in order for us to get to where we're at mentally, and it's not like the growth ever stops, right? Growth never stops. You can always continue to grow, but you have to hit a point in your life where it's rock bottom, right? Yes. And to where it's like, what am I doing? Am I enjoying myself? Am I doing what I love? Am I living at my purpose? Like, if you're not happy and living life in a positive fashion and seeing life in the beauty that it has, the beauty that God has presented it for us, then you're not living life. And you can't wait for that. I'm going to wait for this. Oh, it's my job, or it's my car, or, I'm going to wait till this happens till I start living life happy. And no, it starts within, right? It starts internally. And that's what's going to change the external and how we perceive life. Our reality it starts within, right? So there's always that point of where, am I happy? And that's another question to ask yourself. Am I happy? And if not, then what is it that I'm going to rewind. I'm going to rewind because we don't come into this world with a manual, right? We're born into this life. I've been trying
to find that since I was born. I'm looking for it, man. It's out there.
We have to discover what tastes good. We have to discover what we like and what we don't like, what movies we like. Everything that we like is not something that we knew we liked. We had to experience and discover that, right? And so that is something that we have to find out in order for us to live out the purpose that God has for us, right? And that's why he made it that way anyways, right? He made it so we can be closer to him and to live more like that, to live out our purpose, like I said, and to ultimately be happy. Because I said it the other day, man, just upset and irritated or frustrated, whatever you want to call it, whatever negative emotion that you want to call it, I realized when I changed my perception of life that the energy around the people around me, the energy changed. My kids, they're smiling more. My wife is happier, you know? And I'm just like, man, I can't go back to that because now I'm the one that's exuding negative energy and impacting people in a negative way. Little did I know. So,
well, again, we've talked about that. You know, you walk around with an aura. You know, whether it's positive or negative, you have an aura with you, and the more that you interact with other people, that aura affects them, and it comes in contact with their aura. And negative is stronger than the positive, unfortunately, when it comes to being, you know, when it comes to being contagious, almost like a sickness or a disease. Man, negative is strong, but people don't realize that the positive can be as strong too, right? You know, it's just not as focused as the negative.
Yes.
I want to give your guests some actual tangible tools while we're here on like what Kyle just mentioned about purpose and like how to shift from negative emotions to a positive emotion, something like happy. And I wanted like an actual tool that we can use in real time. And if you guys want to participate with this, just so your guests can be able to see, like, I can
absolutely.
do this. I can do this when I'm at home by myself. I do this with a lot of people that I work with, and I've done this to help shift my perception, like you said, shifting the perception of our negative emotions. So every one of us, we all experience negative emotions, right? We all experience fear, hurt, shame, guilt, anger. We experience those things, right? So just with anger was a big part of my life that I didn't realize it was. It had a lot of control with my relationships and just my interactions with people. I was very easily triggered. And a tool that I learned using NLP is neuro linguistic programming. It's how we communicate with ourselves. It's our self-talk and how we communicate with our minds.
Neural, let me write neural linguistic.
Yeah, neuro linguistic.
Can you repeat that again?
Linguistic programming. So we all have our self-talk. We have a program that's running in our brains. Whether you're aware of it or not, we have our self-talk.
Absolutely.
Right? People that are more self-aware are aware of the negative self-talk. But there is, with every emotion that we experience, has a narrative behind it. So for me, I'm only going to touch the subject with anger because I know that our time is very limited. But with anger, I didn't understand where this anger was coming from. But my reaction towards every individual I interacted with anger was the same. So if somebody bumped me or made me angry, they were getting some anger that came from 30 years ago. And I didn't know this, and they didn't know this. You know, like when I was getting upset, it was coming from something that happened to me when I was 8 years old, and had built up over the years. And this person, all they did was bump me, right? So even in my relationships, when I was having an argument with my girlfriend or something, me and her arguing, I'm getting so angry over something so small. But me not understanding that, man, this is something from years ago, and she has nothing to do with that, right?
Yeah.
So a real-time tool that we can do this real. This is going to be kind of like fast. So you guys both have experienced anger before, right? So I want you to think of a time, and you don't say this out loud, but this is just for your guests to be able to see this, then they can do it with themselves. And you would do this with every single emotion until your perception is changed. And when you do this, at the end of this, your perception of anger will be shifted. Not to say that you won't ever experience anger, but it won't be the same with the new interaction, whoever you may experience anger with. They won't be getting something that came from when you were 10 years old, 8 years old. It'll be whatever it is in that moment. So I want you guys to think of a time when you were the very first time that you can remember, when you first felt anger. Whatever time, the earliest time when you first felt anger. And don't say it out loud. When you got the moment, nod your head. And the next question I'm going to ask you, when you have it, is it between the ages of 0 and 10?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I went back. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Now, I want you to use your imagination. We're going to use the power of our imagination right now. I want you to float up. Imagine yourself floating up outside of your body over the podcast right now, and you're looking down on yourself. Visualize yourself looking down on yourself. Just the imagination. Just float it up outside of your body. All right? So now I want you now to float back to the event the very first time you felt anger. And I want you to look at that moment, see what you see, hear what you hear, feel what you feel. Good. Now I want you to float down inside of that event, inside of yourself, where you're looking through your own eyes, where you can see everything around you, hear everything around you, and feel everything around you. And I want you to feel that moment the very first time when you felt anger. Notice everything that's going on around you. And notice the intense feeling of anger. The you now is now in your body then when you felt anger. You don't have to say this out loud at the moment, but I am going to ask you in a moment, I am going to ask you to tell me what learnings. So I want you to think of all the learnings that you can tell yourself then, that you now can tell yourself then, that would help you let go of that anger easily and effortlessly. And when you have that information, tell me what it is. Just vaguely say it kind of fast, like any information that would help you let go of that anger in that situation, whatever it is that's going on in that event.
This doesn't define you.
Good. Perfect. Kyle?
Everything is going to be okay.
Good. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else, Sean?
Mm-hmm. No, the same thing. You know, this doesn't define you. You're gonna be okay. Your ceiling is a lot higher than this.
Good. Good. Do you have anything else, Kyle?
Man, I've been in that state of mind for so long. Man, it just the lack of trust, right? I mean, as kids and children, we don't experience God in the way that we experience it now. But if we were talking about going back and telling our younger selves, like, there's so many things that we could tell ourselves, and it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, it's temporary.
Good.
It's temporary.
So now what I want you guys to do, I want you to take those learnings and hold on to them, using your power of your imagination, float up, back up outside of your body, and float up where you're looking down on yourself, holding those learnings, that it's going to be temporary, that everything's going to be okay, and that you know that you can let go of this anger easily and effortlessly with these new learnings. And I want you to float back over to this podcast, looking down on yourself right now, and come back into yourself right now, using the power of your imagination, holding these new learnings, letting go of that anger easily and effortlessly, and come back to now. That right there is everything in a nutshell what we just talked about, but it's an actual tangible tool of actually shifting our perception from the actual start of the event when anger first really came in, and we went back to that, and you just shifted your perception with those new learnings. So now when you experience anger,
right,
you will remind yourself that it's temporary. Everything's going to be okay. If you're in an argument with your girl, or if your kids make you angry, or somebody flip you off on the side of the road, everything's going to be okay. This is temporary.
Right. You can almost put yourself into the future state, looking back at that moment, and be like, man, it's all good, man. Like, you know, that it's funny. I like that exercise, man, because it immediately made me smile. And made me just kind of look at myself like, bro, it's all good, little bro. Like, you know, you're gonna be okay, man.
It's gonna
be okay.
It's temporary.
That.
It's temporary, man. I love that. I love that because the relationships that we build, especially with our kids and everyone else around us, can be so much more powerful and more impactful and more enjoyable if we all can understand and grasp that concept of your situations being temporary. Because Sean, it's like we talked about before. I was about to scratch my ear. I got my headphones on. Life is going to life, right? Every day is going to have their obstacles. Is it? We've talked about it so many times on this podcast, and I'm just now starting to having a breakthrough. You can ask Sean, Isaiah. I literally just had the breakthrough the other day. If somebody was in my house, I was in my house alone. This was like 3 days ago, Isaiah. Now, listen, we talk a lot on this podcast, and we learn a lot from it. But actually applying those tools effectively and efficiently is something different, right?
Oh, yes.
Like we talk about the programming, but it was just the other day where I had the breakthrough of understanding that we are supposed to go through hard times so we can get to the happier times. Yeah. And that was something I just understood the other day. These times are made for us to grow, not to trample us, not to set us back, but to learn from the situation and find solutions and whatever it is to help us get past it, because it's inevitable, right? Expect the unexpected.
Yep.
Right? Why do we go in life? Why do we go everyday life not expecting something to happen? Why is that? And we all do it. Something hits us and we're floored. We're derailed. Right? And it's like, no, this is now I'm able to navigate around it. Now I'm able to dodge. Like, now I'm able to or how about stiff arm? Right? Not just dodge, but like how about stiff
Sit
arm?
Him down, yo.
Yeah, it's like like right. No, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. This is temporary. This doesn't define you. This is not who you are. I absolutely love that.
Big man. I wanted to piggyback what you said off of it never being too late, because again, Isaiah, our stories are kind of parallel. It's kind of it's making me laugh a little bit, because same thing, man. My daughter was born about 6 years ago, and I've talked about this on here before too. It wasn't an immediate change that I had. It was once I started going through things after she was born, I noticed I felt different about things. Like, I still had the same mindset, but my feeling towards things changed. Like, it was kind of weird. So I started noticing I was having different reactions internally. And once I started having that mindset change, that mindset shift that came with the feelings that were different, that's when I started, looking internally and assessing things differently. And again, like I said, I've said it on here before. I was mad. I was mad at first that I wasted so much time, wasted so much of my life. I hurt so many people. I allowed people to hurt me. I was really upset for a little bit there. I was also mad that I was older. I was like 33, 32, around there. And I was just like, man, like, everybody else has already figured this type of stuff out. They're already way further ahead in life. People my age have accomplished so much more than I have, man. I was getting so mad. And then
I got something to say about that.
Same thing, it was one of those things where it was just like, nah, man, because I started paying attention. Like, there are people way older than me that haven't figured this type of stuff out, and there are people that are way younger than me that have figured it out. Like, it's different for everybody. And like you said, it's never too late. Even people in your 60s, you can, if you're hearing this, it's never too late to switch things up. It's so easy to pull that, oh, I am who I am card. This just is, I'm too old to change. It's a mindset type of thing. Because again, there are people, especially when we talk about the correlation between the physical and the mental state and the relationship between the two. You see people that are in their 80s, even 90s, that are out there fit and getting after it, and it's just because of their mindset. They chose to go out there and get after it every single day. And the same thing with people that don't choose to go do that. They're in their 60s, barely able to move. In their 50s, worse off than people in their 80s as far as physical goes. Same thing with the mind, if you're not staying on top of that. So again, I love that you said that it's not going to feel good when you realize that you need help, that you need to change, that you need to get better. It doesn't feel good when you have that realization. But like you said, Isaiah, that's the start of it. That's just the very beginning, is when you have that realization, and you should be excited when you get to that point, because there's so much growth that can come from that. And change should be exciting, especially when it's positive change. And if you're able to have that mindset switch and make the change on your terms, that's how it's positive.
Absolutely.
Man, I want to piggyback. I want to piggyback what Sean just said. Two things. I'm gonna piggyback the what you just said as far as people getting caught up in envy and jealousy, right? And I actually thought of this today, and just think about DNA, right? DNA is essentially our identification number, right? You pick a follicle, and this is what represents Isaiah. This is what represents Sean. This follicle cannot represent anyone else, right? You think about an inmate number, right? Or a serial number, right? God has given us an identification number, right? And how I might botch this because I've been trying to articulate this, right? Our DNA is like a VIN number to a vehicle, right? So think about your car right now. Whatever car that is, color, make, and model. How many times have you seen that exact car out in the world? Enough times, right? You're like, oh, that's my exact same car. Yeah. But it's not the same VIN number, right? That car can't be your car, right? Which means that other car has a different path than you do. So you can't worry about where that car is going, because that is not your VIN number. That is not your path. You weren't supposed to lead that journey, right? And I think a lot of us get caught up in trying to live somebody else's life, trying to take somebody else's path. And that's not the case. We have our own VIN number, our own identity for a reason. And that's for us to live out our own purpose, right? But it's not so easy. So we need to stop comparing ourselves to other people and other people's situations, because everyone's going to hit, if they do hit rock bottom at a different time. We all experience life at a different time. Or we all experience life differently. Every individual person lives a different life. So stop comparing ourselves and try to figure it out on our own, right? And so I wanted to go back real quick. Go ahead.
I was going to say that
Go
goes.
ahead,
That's
Isaiah.
what leadership is. No, that's right. That's right. That's what leadership is. We gotta look inward. We got to. That's look under our own hood of our cars. Well, how is our own car functioning?
Right. Right.
Yeah, for sure. And to people out there who are parents, man, the last thing I wanted to say was my kids' behavior, right? Especially with boys. I used to be like, man, my son needs to work on this. My son needs to work on that. And we talk about programming, right? We talk about trauma from our younger lives as kids. And as kids, we don't know how to process emotions. We just know how we feel when we feel it at that time. And then it gets programmed into our subconscious. And I noticed that my kids' behavior was a reflection of my energy. So while I was thinking that my son was misbehaving in a certain way, I was the real reason as to why he was behaving in such a way. And when I shifted my energy, I started noticing his behavior change, and it blew my mind. Wow. Right? Just because of Tyson, why are you doing this? It's getting mad at him, right? Just not having that empathy, right? Not being a hypocrite, right? Not understanding how I was as a kid, and treating that situation as such. And now that I have that awareness, I approach every situation very differently than I did before. And his responses are different. He's behaving better. He's acting the way I wanted him to act. versus, but it was me that was exuding that energy that made him act that way. So I thought that was so heavy for me. I thought that was so heavy for me because now, like, I look at him and he might get in trouble, but I'll smile at him and he'll be like he'll know that everything's going to be all right.
Yeah, right.
Right. So before it was just like, man, like he's mad at me again. Like, man, like he's mad at me again. Like, oh, what did I do wrong now? Like, what, like, oh, and that affects us and it takes us into our adulthood. And that's where we start getting angry. Like, where did this come from? Right. And so I thought that was completely mind blowing. I hope that helps everybody out there. Just shifting your energy and having that understanding that you were a kid too. Like, you weren't honest to your parents. Like, I wasn't honest to my parents.
Right.
Why am I getting so upset that he's being dishonest? Obviously, we have to handle it in a proper way, right? We have to tackle it. But I can't get mad at him. I can't yell at him, right? And my wife told me the other day, too, just I don't get too mad about it, but like when he loses things, because I lose all kinds of things, bro. Like I lose things all the time, right? And so how can I get mad at him for losing things all the time when it's like when I used to lose things all the time?
Yeah, right.
So it's more
the reason why he loses things is because of you. So
and like
right?
That's just using that tool for our kids, like working on ourselves has an effect on our kids. It has the ability to change how our kids' behavior. The more work we do on ourselves, it just like I'll keep bringing this topic back to leadership because that's what I teach. More you work on yourself.
That's what it is, though. That's what we're doing, though, right?
It affects everything. It has an effect on everything.
Yes.
Our kids, our finances, everything. And it's so important that people start to look inwards and stop looking outwards. Stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. And there's so much about our own selves that we have to discover that there shouldn't be any time to look out. The only thing we should be doing is discovery and then share it. Discovery and share the news. Yeah. And we should all be doing that as we are doing right now.
That's it.
Yep. That's absolutely it. That's absolutely it. And a lot of us are fearful of doing so, right? Yep. Fear of judgment, right? Caring about what people think, right? But that's really what it comes down to.
It's the ego again, like we said. You know, it's not being able to take yourself accountable, hold accountability for yourself, and because you know, like I said, it's not easy to admit that you were wrong. Yep. You know, imagine going through your entire life and then having God come over to you and say, you've been doing everything wrong. I mean, that's a huge shot to your identity and who, thinking that you went through everything that you went through in life for a reason. And again, to hear that you were doing it wrong. So again, it's not easy to swallow that humble pie, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when it's being force fed. And that's why it's so much better for you to feed yourself that humble pie and not, so that way you're not choking on it. It makes it a little bit easier to swallow. But again, going back to, our jobs as parents, and it's our job, because kids, they're going to be a product of their environment, right? Especially like we say about us in the area that we grew up. So we as parents need to be able to create that safe environment for our kids to be honest with us. Even if they've messed up, let me know. Yeah. I saw this meme one time, and it sounds funny to be able to take such inspiration from a meme, but it said, I'd rather be the type of parent that my kids feel safe enough to call me when they've been arrested than to be too scared to call me and be afraid. And I completely botched that, but it's so true, man. And that was something that I had a huge fear of contacting my parents when I messed up, and not to say anything about negative about them, but that was a huge fear of mine, to let them know that I screwed up. I couldn't do that. I was afraid.
But why? Exactly. I was just about to ask. Well, why was that?
I was
afraid.
Yeah, I was
afraid of getting in trouble. Like, what are they going to think about me? It's like they're going to be mad at me. It's like, oh my goodness, like what's going to happen? What are the repercussions?
Right. So I'm hyper aware of how sensitive I was to that as a kid. So I try to let my kids know, like you said, Kyle, even when I'm coming down on them, throw a little smile at the end or something, to let them know, like, it's all good. Like, I still love
okay.
you. I don't hate you. Like, you didn't screw your life up or anything like that. Like, it's all good. Again, when you're a kid, your bandwidth is so small. You can only see things from right here. And us as adults, we obviously have a much bigger perspective of the world. We have a much bigger vantage point of being able to see things. So it's our job to let these kids know, and you even touched base on suicide earlier. Again, same thing. Let people know that it's okay to screw up. It's okay. It's never
okay
too late
to feel how you're
to be
feeling.
able to fix something. To fix something about yourself. If you screwed up to the point, let's say you lose relationships, at least take the knowledge away from that. Learn on how you screwed up, and so that way you're not going to do that again going forward. And again, that was a huge part of my own personal journey and growth.
Like you
can't.
Well,
exactly.
You have to make mistakes. You have to fall. You have to fail. You got to do something wrong so you can get better.
Right.
Because that's the only way.
That's the only way. That's the only way.
And I tell my kids that all the time. Like, it's for them to fail. I'm looking at what did you learn? I don't want to hear about every time that you won. I don't want to hear about that. I want where'd you learn? Where'd you lose at? So we can talk about how we can get better. Because that's the only way I can be able to start talking about how to get better. If you tell me that you won, I'm like, oh man, I have nothing. We have nothing to learn here. I want to know where. And if you're getting so good at something, now I'm going to put you in a position to where it's going to be a little bit more challenging. Like my kids, we all do jujitsu. Yeah. We all do jujitsu, and they like doing the same move because they're really good at it. And I'm like, no, get on your back, and I want you to let the other kid put you in a bad position so we can learn how to get out of this. I don't want you to see you doing you winning all the time. I want to see where you can learn and grow at. And they're like, I don't want to do that. I'm losing. Yeah. Nah, that's the point.
I love it.
I want you to get good at where you are weak at.
I got my blood flowing, man. Anybody that correlates, because again, we've talked about this before too. The correlation between combat sports and not even necessarily getting in fights or anything like that, but just the practicing of it. It is therapy. I promise you, for anybody that is looking to express themselves, it's the best way to let off that steam, to learn about yourself and what you're capable of, to learn what other people are capable of. Because again, Isaiah, like you were talking about with football, and a lot of us have experienced this, especially when we're younger. We think we're the man or the woman. We think that we got it all. And if you can get into, especially jiu-jitsu, it's so good because nobody's taking any head damage or anything like that. If you get into a bad position, you can tap and get out of it and move forward. Yeah. But again, you will find out real quick on the mats, where you stand in the ranks of people and what they're capable of physically, and it is humbling. But real quick. But it is addicting because again, you see the areas that you can grow, you see the areas that you can improve, and you are able to do it in a safe a safe environment, right? Because again, you're not really getting hurt like that. It is one of the best therapies out there for people. For again letting off that physical steam, and again learning more about yourself internally.
I love how that is being brought up. I wasn't much in. I'm going to start actually, and it was something I want to put my kids in. But there's something about knowing how to defend yourself that provides so much confidence that translates into real life.
Yep.
Right. 100%. As far as bullies being like, just other people, and it's subconscious. And not only are you that you have some type of release, now you're able to defend yourself in a way that you weren't able to do it before. And it just, like I said, it provides a different confidence about yourself. And I think it's just about having fun and learning something, right, is what brings happiness. People are having this. It's like that. It's what we talk about as you're a kid. I wanted to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back, the confidence thing, but I wanted to bring it back to when you started talking, Isaiah, about the jiu-jitsu thing and how important it is for us to teach our kids that it's okay to make mistakes, because that's what translates into our adulthood, right? Our adulthood. And then when we make mistakes, we're afraid to try anything. We're afraid to fail. right? And then
Right.
now we can't even achieve what we're supposed to achieve because we can't even start. So again, it starts at childhood and having that awareness of being able, like, no, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, and it takes repetition. It takes repetition for them to finally understand. And it's like, no, my parents made it in an okay place to make mistakes. So now
Right.
when they're going out into the real world, they're like, oh no, I got this. I can handle this. This is in my subconscious. This is my programming now. I know how to handle this type of stuff because I'm experienced it. I've
And also
I
to not be so let down when you do fail in life or something
right.
doesn't work out for you. It's not so devastating. It's something that you can, like Isaiah was saying, learn from, take something away from it, and then apply it going forward. And that way, again, I love that. I love the saying, "You either win or you learn," right? And that's
Yeah.
that
Win or learn.
mindset is a game changer,
Yeah.
right? Because again, I didn't have that mindset as a kid. I was afraid of losing. I was afraid of so many things, in fear of losing or not being good enough was a crippling fear of mine. It prevented me from doing a lot of things, pursuing
Yeah.
jobs, being in relationships, pursuing, whatever it is that I really wanted to pursue, because I was afraid of how people would look at me if I wasn't good enough at it.
Yeah. And it's and now we know that it's about who can we touch, who can we reach.
If I could take
Like
this
Isaiah was telling.
mindset that I have now and put it back when I was in high school, man, I would be I'd be jacked. I'd be a millionaire. You know what I mean? I would do all kinds of things. I would be having
Hey,
going
but
for me
hey,
right now.
but listen, but that thought too, though, right, Sean? It goes to what Isaiah was saying. It's never too late because
Right.
we often do that. We often take our new awareness and feel like it's too late to apply it to our lives now.
Yep.
Not thinking that it's going to have that same impact, but it's going to be that same. It's going to have that same impact in the future than it would have last or back
Exactly.
when we were 18.
Yep.
Right.
And there is so much more to unpack here, Isaiah. We are going to have another episode.
I
We're
was
going to
just
have an
thinking the
episode
same
too,
thing. We got
man.
to get you back on here, man.
Yeah.
'Cause
We're
there was
gonna
so
have to
many
have
other
another
things I
episode.
wanted to touch base on.
We still haven't even got into the program yet. We haven't even got into the
There's
program.
so
We got
much
to get
more.
into the program.
We started talking about jujitsu, and I'm over here like, oh man, I want to start talking about body communication, self
My
communication
blood
with
started
others.
flowing, bro. I started moving around in the chair. I was ready.
Yeah.
Hey,
So yeah,
I
we'll
Hold that.
definitely
really
do
Write
a
that
part
appreciate you
two.
down.
guys,
Hold
man.
that.
I'm really grateful that you
Appreciate
guys
you,
allowed me
man.
to come on here and have this conversation with you guys. Like this feels good to me
Uh,
to even be able to just have a good, healthy conversation with like-minded people. This feels good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for coming on, man. And to think again, right, Sean, that was so difficult to get here. I'm a little bit under the weather, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get on. But I'm like, this happens every
Every
single
time.
time. There hasn't been one time we get on here and it's not something we grow from. There's always a growing aspect from this, and it's that flush, right? It's that release, man. And
That's
this
it.
is what life is about. Again, people, it's never going to get old. It's never going to get old because this is what life is supposed to be about. Community, ironing, sharpening iron, and building new ideas. We don't have it all, right? There's a billion people in the world, 8 billion people in the world with 8 billion different mindsets. Now, all those mindsets may not be, healthy for your circle, but there's that much there's that many mindsets that are going to allow us to take little nuggets here and there in order and allow us to apply it to our lives so we can be that much of a better person, a better husband, better wife, a better brother, or whatever the case is, right? And so this is what life is about: growing, learning, and
Absolutely.
having community.
Absolutely.
100%. So I know we didn't dive into it too much, but before we get off, I want to give
Cliffhanger.
you the opportunity. Yeah, well, yeah, we're definitely going to get you back on here and talk about this, but I want to give you the opportunity to plug your website, let people know where they can, where they can reach out to you and get involved in what you have going on.
So you can find me on Instagram at a leader leads. And my website is the leadersleadprogram.com. I'm currently helping people that are struggling with smoking addictions. That's something that's real close to me because I know how much of an impact it had on my life. So I'm helping people get rid of that addiction. If anybody out there that is battling with smoking weed, cigarettes, any of those type of things, go to my website, sign up. I do 6-week programs. I do one-on-one sessions to help you get rid of your addiction, even in as quick as less than 24 hours. So contact me on my
Wow,
website.
that's
And
amazing.
I look forward to part 2 of this so we can go even deeper. I love going deeper and deeper. That's what I like to do.
Absolutely, man.
That's we appreciate you coming on here. You know, you truly encompass everything that we are trying to put together with this podcast and get out there for people. Because again, you know, having these type of conversations allows people to realize that they're not alone out there. And that was another one of the big things for me, was thinking that the things and troubles in things that I had going on in life, nobody else was going through or could understand. And letting people know that they're not alone and that there is help out there in many different facets of what we have going on, but especially with what you're putting out there with addiction. I think that's awesome, and I truly appreciate you coming on here and talking with us. And we are absolutely getting you on here for part 2.
Yep, getting rid of those strongholds. We're gonna leave.
100%. All right. Thank you again. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.